First of all, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate that. I'm from a different department, from a different faculty, but we share some interest. We share interest in food and in consumers. But I'm a marketing guy. I'm a professor in marketing. So the difference between us, I'm interested in buying, not so much in eating. I'm interested in what makes people buy something and not buy something else. But of course, when we talk about food, whether people buy something for the first time, okay, we can influence that by advertising and a lot of other things there. But whether people buy something the second time is more difficult, because then people have eaten it and they may not have liked it. And if they don't like it, then they will not buy it again. So that's there has always been sort of a link between what we are doing. But that's sort of the main message I like to make in this talk here. This link is getting more important. And that's sort of what I try to explain. I will try to explain or try to sort of argue for the viewpoints that the way in which consumers view food is changing, and that the way in which it is changing has implications for what people buy, and has also implications for how we can study it. It has implications in the sense that cooperation between people like us, I think, becomes more important. So, this is a traditional way in which we have looked at the way in which people perceive the quality of a food product until maybe a few years ago. Now, this was a paradigm that was dominant both in marketing and also in agricultural economics, which is sort of adjacent to food marketing. People expect certain things from a food, notably good taste, and then later on convenience and maybe also healthiness. And before they buy the product, these qualities are unknown. So before they buy the product, they have to form expectations about how the product will be once they have bought it. About the taste, for example. Will the product really taste well? Then they buy the product, and after the product, then they can find out how the taste really is, and also whether it's really convenient. So after they've bought the product, the expectations that they have formed before they buy the product can be confirmed or disconfirmed. And to the extent it's confirmed, they're probably satisfied and may buy the product again. And if it's disconfirmed, they are not satisfied and will probably not buy the product again. Right? So that is this distinction between the before purchase and after purchase that has been really central. That's of course the way we think. As I said, we have the purchase as a focus, not the eating. So the eating that serves as the confirmation or disconfirmation of the expectation that we have formed before we buy. Already there was a small problem that we tried to ignore, which is with the healthiness, because the healthiness is not really confirmed or disconfirmed by the eating, right? So, but we sort of ignored that and sort of could work with that pretty well. And we've done many studies based on that paradigm here. We've been showing, like here, people pictures of different types of beef here, and then we just by looking at them, what do you expect the quality will be like? That's the blue curves there. People think this is the best quality, this is the worst quality, and then people get the beef to take home and prepare it, and then we ask them again, how did you like it? And then we get green curves there, which shows the opposite, namely that people now like the one on the right best and the one on the left not so much. So that the expectation in this case here has been disconfirmed by the experience. Then we can think about what that means in terms of marketing, communication and things like that. So that is sort of the classical paradigm. However, the way in which food is being viewed by consumers is changing. And that's not something, of course, that occurs from one day to the other. That's a process that has been ongoing for quite some years already. And I think we are in the middle of it. And you can frame it in many different ways. But I use here these two keywords which have been used a lot: authenticity and responsibility. People want increasingly food that they regard as authentic. That's a sort of fuzzy term, but that includes all these things. We want the natural product, the real product, the unspoiled product, the unprocessed product, the real thing. The original thing, the authentic thing. In responsibility, people want food that is healthy, that has been going on for a long time, but people also want food that is, sustainable is the term we many times use, but that's not a consumer term. Consumers more think about ethical or fair trade or animal welfare, but all these issues which are part of sustainability. That's growing too. And it's not as strong, these other aspects, as the health-related aspects, but it's growing too. And to the extent we have these as things that consumers want, in addition to the classical quality parameters like a good taste, of course, and convenience is still important. And to the extent people want this one here, it changes the way in which we come back to that one. It changes the way in which people view quality, because authenticity, can we taste what is authentic afterwards? It's at least not clear what the authentic taste is as compared to the processed taste. Actually, the experiments with yogurt, for example, one without a flavor enhancer, and people who say they like natural more. Which one do they like more when they taste it? The one with a flavor enhancer. So it's not sort of that straightforward. And of course, healthiness is not directly, you cannot taste that or see that. You have to believe it. The same goes for sustainability. So we have this development that these sort of intangible qualities become more important. Just to show you that this is not just something I'm saying, we have the Mintel database, which archives product launches and categorizes them according to what is claimed, what the product does. And we have here the increase in the use of the word traditional in the launching of new food products, going straight up. And we have something similar with products where something ethical is claimed, and even animal welfare has been on the rise. These trends, authenticity and responsibility, as I said, they change the way in which quality is perceived. That goes before and after the purchase. So starting with the before the purchase phase, that is in principle, of course, still the same. People want some kind of quality. The quality is not known except for the appearance of the product. Therefore, they form expectations based on sort of uncertain cues. Now here is an advertisement from a Danish product that you even may know that is obviously positioned as a healthy product. They try to convince people that this is a healthy product. So what's in here? There's in small print down there, there's actually something like a health claim explaining the culture that's in there and why it's good for you. It's organic, and we know many people think if it's organic, it's also more healthy. And then we have this sort of very healthy looking family, and we have blue water, which is many people also regard as sort of pure and could induce thoughts about health. So we distinguish three types of elements here that may people think this is a healthy product, and that may induce people to want to buy this particular product. So we've done some experimentation where we constructed artificial ads like this one here, where we combined different factors. Did it have a health claim or not? Did it have a process claim that it's organic or local or not? And then we varied the pictures. And we had a neutral one, and then we had various variations which we thought would induce this feeling of healthiness based on some pre-testing that we had done. And if you then, for example, measure people's buying intention, how it is related to the presence of these elements, what has the biggest effect is a picture. If the picture is the right one, that both increases the perception of healthiness and people's wish to buy the product. Whether the process argument, whether it's local or organic, also has an effect. Actually, the health claim has almost no effect on neither the perception of healthiness nor the intention to buy the product. This one here is from a study we did on treating meat with herbs and berries. Because if you treat meat with herbs and berries, they have some preservative function, I've been told, so you can reduce on some additives, and of course also does something to the flavor. And then we did some experiments how people liked that one here. So we had showed people a number of products like this one here. It's sort of ham cubes with some marinade here. and we had various variations of these and compared them to the classical product. And we have in this graph here, we have the 3 new products on the left, and then we have 2 regular products, non-product on the right. And when we ask people to choose between them, we get 2 segments, blue and the red. The red people like the new products more than the existing ones, and for the blue people it's the opposite. That's quite normal, and the red ones of course are also more variety seeking, innovative, and then all that kind of thing. But then we did also something else. Here we only said this is here ham cubes, and this is with a marinade of what is ribs in English? Anyone knows? What? Blackcurrant and Tütepeer? Lingonberry. I'm not so good in berries, but that's what it says. And then we had a second variation. It's the same product, it's the same explanation, but then there's some additional tekst her. Tidsstranden er nyt nordisk hverdagsmad, lokale råvarer som følger de nordiske kulinæriske traditioner. Ribs og tyttebær fra den fynske sommer, very appropriate here, høstes lige før det helt modne, når indholdet af antioxidanter er højest. And that is sort of the type of story that we find these days a lot on food products. Sorry for those who don't speak Danish here. No? But it tells a nice small story about where these berries come from, no? Where they have been harvested. So it's a very, very simple element of storytelling added to the product about how the product has come about. We find a lot of that these days on products. So when we add that, it changes like this here. What we find now, it doesn't have no effect on those that already like the product because they like sort of new products. But the other ones, the skeptical ones, the blue ones here, now they look like the other one. So it changes the preference of those that have been more skeptical, and they are more interested now in the new product. So what's happening here? I think we can it makes sense to distinguish 2 kinds of processes that may be going on here. Because the one thing is every type of this type of communication we give, of course, induces inferences about the quality of the product. That's what we could call the cognitive route to purchase intention. Because it is a local, because it's organic, it's more healthy. Now, many people think that, now that organic products are actually more healthy. But there may also be something else, namely that people just like the organic production. Now, the fact that it's organic induces some positive effect, which increases the buying intention, even though our beliefs about the product quality may be unchanged. That may also explain some effects like the picture and the ad, or these small storytelling things that we added to the ham cubes and things like that. Another example of how we can look at that, this is from a concept test we did in a project on pork, and this was something one of the companies was sort of thinking to launch on the market, new range of premium pork products inspired by the Scandinavian kitchen. Regional spices such as wild garlic, berries and roots contribute to each meal with a characteristic flavor of the north. The Scandinavian kitchen reflects simplicity, purity and freshness of food products. So it's an attempt to capitalize on this new Nordic food trend with a pork product. When we analyze how people view this description of a potential new product here, we measure people's acceptance in terms of liking and intention. We measure people's perception of the quality of the product in terms of taste, quality and value for money. And then we look at how different elements in the text here affect this one here. And these were the 3 elements that had most effect here. And we see that there are 2 kinds of effects here. We see that the information about the spices in the Scandinavian kitchen, some of the effect of that on acceptance of the product is mediated by the quality perception, but some of it is not. Some of it has a direct effect on acceptance, it's not mediated by the quality. So that could be a way of looking at these 2 processes. This is from a project that a Belgian colleague has done on beef in Verbeke from Ghent in Belgium. He's been doing research on pasture-raised cattle. Pasture-raised cattle, that's also a good thing. People like the idea, something being pasture-raised. They imagine the cows on the grass and looks good and things like that. So if you tell people this is pasture-raised, how do people react to that? And they distinguish three things. One is you only tell them it's pasture-raised. The other one, that's the example here, it's pasture-raised and that improves shelf life. So it's a safety thing there. Or it's pasture-raised and that has a health benefit. The best effect on people's intention to buy this product here is if you only tell them it's pasture-raised and not why. Because as soon as you tell them it's pasture-raised and this has this effect here on shelf life, on the healthiness, actually the purchase intention goes down. And that's my interpretation of this is people like the idea it's pasture-raised. It elicits positive, spontaneous affect, and as soon as we try to explain why that's good for you, people become more skeptical. It's different with other things. If a product like beef, fresh meat is enhanced with some kind of things like by feeding, for example, people don't like that idea because it detracts from the authenticity. So the only thing we can tell that to people is, well, it has a health effect. And then people become a bit more positive. But here, with the pasture-based, it's opposite. So my first conclusion, I have two sets of conclusions here. My first conclusion is, as I already said, that these two trends, responsibility and authenticity, they change the way in which we form expectations and purchase intentions about food, in the sense that we have more of the duality of these kinds of processes. On the one hand, we think about how the product will be in terms of taste or health. On the other hand, we have more of these direct effect-inducing elements in the communication. How about then after people buy the product? What happens after people buy the product? Before they buy, they've been exposed to some information, like I've just shown you. Let's say they buy the product, and typically there's some kind of preparation involved before they actually consume the product. And as I said, the classical paradigm was here then we get confirmed or disconfirmed the expectations that we have formed here. But as I already said, if we expect the product to be healthy and authentic and responsible, sustainable, there's nothing really that can be confirmed or disconfirmed by the consumption. It doesn't mean that the perception we have of that cannot change after the purchase. Of course it can change, because whether we think a product is healthy or sustainable or authentic is a question of communication. And of course the communication process can continue after we have bought the product. We can still look what's on the package after we have bought the product. We have had results on meat where we ask about how healthy is the meat here and there. And people here think it's more healthy than here. That is because if you fry the meat, some of the fat melts away and people think it's more healthy because the fat is not as visible anymore as it was before. So we have over this whole phase here, we have information acquisition, which can change people's perceptions of the quality of the product. Whereas the sort of taste-related, that's what I really mean. Taste-related sensory experience is something that comes relatively late in the process here. It's in the interaction between this ongoing process of information acquisition and the sensory experience during preparation, especially consumption, that people form beliefs, form liking, satisfaction, and so on. It's an ongoing process. And I think this is a process, I'll come to that in a minute, but this is a process where if we work together, we can become better in understanding that. Because people like me who work in the marketing field, we are best in analyzing those processes that lead up to the purchase. This is again the ham cubes here, because we wanted to do a little bit of studying this process here. So what we did, we first explained people the idea. By using herbs and berries in meat processing, we can reduce chemicals. People like that. People think that's a really good idea. Then we showed them the product in the package. Then we showed them the product without the package. Then we showed on a plate as you could serve it. Then we show them the physical product before trial, and then they actually try it, taste the product, and after trial. And at each of these phases, we try to measure how people react to it, both by some traditional way with a paper and pencil, or not paper and pencil, it was sort of computer-based, but sort of traditional type of questionnaire, but also by something which is called a face reader, which is an instrument that analyzes people's facial expression and translates that into scores for sort of basic emotional responses. And what we see here is people, as I said, people really like the idea. But from then, if you look at the purchase intention, it goes down and down. The more we get here to the actual consumption, the more skeptical people get. It's not quite as bad with the quality perception, because that's sort of once we go to the unpacked product, then it stays. But from the concept to the package to the unpacked product, it goes down. So people's perception changes during the process. And it would continue after this one here if we had sort of the real consumption situation in the real setting. And I think it's these processes that we should understand. Just one more example here. 2 processed beef products: heather smoked shoulder fillet, smoked with beechwood and heather twigs, fried major marinated in honey and blackthorn schnapps, marinated, links very nicely with your example there, marinated in Danish honey and Danish blackthorn schnapps prepared from blackthorn collected in West Jutland. It sounds good. People really like that. When people read that, people really like it. So we showed people these products and these descriptions, if we then analyze determinants of people's buying intentions for the upper one here, we find that the information on the preparation, the effect that has on the buying intention, is fully mediated by the inferences about the quality, but not in the other one here, which has a sort of more elaborate history here. There we have this direct effect that has on the buying intention. And that's before the purchase. If you now have people try these 2 products, this before trial, after trial, for the 2 products here, and we measure taste, expected, perceived, healthfulness, purchase intention, overall quality, we can 2 things. Now we can see here, we'll see lower product here, the one with a really good story. People get really disappointed about the taste. People don't like the taste when trying it, and the purchase intention as one here, that follows the taste experience. It also goes down. And here it's the opposite. Actually, it becomes a bit better, and also the purchase intention follows it. And why is that? And I think it's because this story here, nobody really knows how beef tastes if you marinate it in Danish honey and Danish blackthorn schnapps. It's a good story, and people like the story, and that's why they're willing to buy it, but people have no idea how the taste actually will be. So if people taste it, they think it's a strange taste, because it's kind of sweet, and people just didn't like the taste. They were surprised by the taste here. So in this case here, the taste, because it was so unexpected, overrided this positive impression that people had because of story. Now, if the taste would be okay, then it would be different. And this is my last example here, because here this is about conventional versus organic pork. And what it basically shows, I will not get into the details, but it basically shows that if we cross whether it's organic and conventional with the information, so the organic could be labeled conventional and the other way around, then we find that even after tasting, people think if it's labeled organic, the taste is better. No matter whether it was organic or not. Actually, if you only look at the physical product, the conventional was a bit better. But the tastes were very close. That's the important point. The taste of the 2 was almost identical, and that's when we tell them people it's organic, then people really think it tastes better also after the consumption. So my second conclusion here is that information on the way a product has been produced, which could support this desirable authenticity or responsibility, can have a positive impact on first purchase intention, but for intention to buy again, the taste still plays a major role. But if the taste is good, then the expectations based on this process information can carry through to the experience stage. And what I really think we need in order to understand these processes better here is that we need research that is better in following the whole process from when the consumer first is exposed to a product until sort of post-ingestion, through purchase, through preparation, through consumption, and so on. That we can say how the role of the physical product as a source of information changes throughout that process, how the information changes, and not least the subjective trade-offs and synergies that may be between the sensory and the informational impressions that the consumer is affected to. And I think that's where we together can make a difference. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Klaus.